Alright guys, so we're going to start off in 1.9 discussing absolute value equations and inequalities. So first thing is a reminder on absolute value and what it is. So the absolute value of a number is always its distance from zero on the number line. And absolute value, since it's distance, it always has to be positive. Since distance is always a length. So I'm kind of all over the place because I'm trying to write on my tablet. Alright, so we can understand absolute value as thinking about, so the distance between something and another something is something. So we can approach this. Let's just scroll down to an example that'll make life easy. Alright, so the distance here, this distance minus 5 is equal to negative 2. So because this is not inside the absolute value, we can actually approach that on its own just like we do with normal equations. So we can add 5 to both sides. And then you get the absolute value of n is equal to 3. So therefore, n must be 3. Or negative 3 because we always end up with an absolute value. Means distance from 0 is 3. So what things have a distance from 0 of 3? Well, 3 or negative 3. Sorry, that or looks kind of goofy there. We can do the same thing right here. We have negative 3 times the absolute value of m. So we could divide by the negative 3 on both sides. And we get that the absolute value of m, well, negative 9 divided by negative 3 is 3. So that means that m could be 3 or negative 3. Alright, so now if we look here at the absolute value of r minus 8 equals 5, then we can say the distance between r minus 8 and 0 is 5, which means that r will inherently have two locations, because wherever it is, if you subtract 8, your distance away from 0 could be 5. So we can think of that as being the distance between r and 8 to be 5 units. So one way that we can approach these, and this is my favorite way to do it, since this is absolute value, we know absolute value is the positive or the negative. So we can take really two different situations. We can say in a first situation, r minus 8, the positive version of that is equal to 5. And then we can take the negative version of it and say that that is equal to 5. What this allows me to do then is I can look at this just as r minus 8, so I can add 8 to both sides and get one of my solutions of 13. And we can check this by saying, okay, 13 minus 8, well, that would give me 5. The absolute value of 5 is 5. Let's try another one. So now this negative has to distribute in here, so I get negative r plus 8 equals 5. Because I have a positive 8, now to get rid of that, I subtract 8. I get negative r is equal to negative 3. And since they're both negative, I can make them both positive and say r is equal to 3. So if we plug that in, 3 minus 8, well, that gives me negative 5, and the absolute value of negative 5 is 5. So I always think the easiest way is to think about the positive of everything inside and then the negative of everything inside. Solve both and you'll get your two different solutions. So now when we look at this Serena and Darius problem, it says that Serena is skating towards Darius. Right now, by the picture that we see here, we can see that Serena is currently 100 feet away from Darius. She's skating at 20 feet per second, and we want to know at what time is she 60 feet from Darius. So what we're going to have to do to solve that is say, okay, well, what is her distance from Darius? Well, right now, her distance, we know, That's a bad D. Her distance is 100 feet. But that's going to be changing by 20 feet every second. So we could say 20 times t for time in seconds. And we want to know at what point she'll be 60 feet from Darius. So we could just say that would be equal to 60, but that would only actually give me one value. Because Serena's going to hit a point out here where she's 60 feet from Darius, but then if she keeps going, she'll hit a point out here where she's also 60 feet from Darius. So really, judging by what we have right now, Darius is like our 0, and this would be our negative 60. So what we're looking for here is at where will 100 minus 20t be 60 or negative 60? So we can just use absolute values. And we can say the absolute value of 100 minus 20t is equal to 60. So take a moment, pause the video, try to solve that. Alright, so if we use the method that we just discussed up above, the absolute value of 100 minus 20t, I can take the positive and the negative versions of that absolute value. So the positive version, 100 minus 20t equals 60, you can see my solution there. We end up with 2 seconds as my solution for that. Then if I take the negative, I'm going to apply that opposite, or that negative, to everything inside these parentheses. So I get negative 100 and a positive 20t. I add 100 to both sides to get rid of that constant value. I end up with 20t is equal to 160. I divide by 20 on both sides, and I get a time of 8 seconds. So after 2 seconds or after 8 seconds, she will be 60 feet away from Darius. Alright, on problem 3 here, we are going to start with the constant term that is on the outside of our absolute value. So we approach it by dealing with the negative 5 first, and then we deal with the absolute value. So if we want to deal with the negative 5, we can do that by just adding 5 to both sides. Negative 7 plus 5 is going to leave me with a negative 2 for that right side. And now I just have the absolute value of 3x minus 6. And I want you to pause the video and try to approach this using the positive or negative method, where we look at both. Alright, due to space on the page, I'm going to have to do this twice. So here's my positive method. 3x minus 6, exactly what was in the absolute value, is equal to negative 2. I go through the solution, I add 6 to both sides, then I have 3x equal to 4. I divide the 3, and then I get that x is equal to 4/3. So then if you haven't done it yet, try the negative method. So then the other solution for this, applying the negative method, would be the opposite of 3x minus 6. So we get negative 3x, positive 6. We then subtract 6 from both sides, so we get a negative 8 over here. That's equal to negative 3x. Divide by the negative 3, we get x is equal to 8/3. And here is another little example box to help you in thinking through these situations. Alright, now we need to look at solving inequalities that involve absolute values. So step 1 is always to write the absolute value equation and solve it. So you're going to do the positive negative method here. So take this side, solve it just exactly how it is, then take the opposite of your left side and solve it that way. So give that a shot, pause the video, and solve. Alright, and here is my solution process. So I take the positive, 2x plus 4 greater than or equal to 5. You subtract 4 from both sides, you get 2x is greater than or equal to 1. You divide by 2, and you get x is greater than or equal to 1/2. Do the same thing on the negative method, so we took the opposite of 2x plus 4, so we have negative 2x minus 4. Add 4 to both sides. Then we have negative 2x is greater than or equal to 9. We divide by negative 2 on both sides, and since we are dividing by a negative, we got to flip our inequality symbol, so we end up with x is less than or equal to negative 4.5. Alright, so then we want to begin by placing open dots. We always start with open on our 2 points, so on 1/2 and negative 4.5. So come out here to negative 1/2, and then, sorry, we're at positive 1/2, negative 4.5. So positive 1/2, then a negative 4.5. Alright, then we got to decide what direction. So If x is greater than or equal to 1/2, then we'd shade this way. And if x is less than or equal to negative 4.5, we'd shade this way. And since they both have the or equal to, both of my circles are going to get filled in. So to check it, then we pick a number from each of the 3 sections. So let's just start leftmost. So let's go like -5. If I plug in -5 here, I'd get -10 when I do that multiplication. -10 plus 4 would be -6, and the absolute value of -6 would be 6. So is that greater than or equal to 5? Yes. Choose a number from in here. -2 works. -2, plug it in, that gives me -4. -4 plus 4 is 0. Is 0 greater than or equal to 5? No, which is why that is not shaded. Then we pick a number from out here. Might as well just pick 1. If I plug in 1 there, we have 2 plus 4 is 6. Absolute value of 6 is greater than 5. Yes, it is. So now we want to write a compound inequality for our final answer. So go ahead and try that. And as we said earlier in the video, because these 2 sections are disjointed, it would have to be an or situation. So we can only use and if they graph and end up only having 1 shaded section. So the 2 sections make me use or, so I write out x is greater than or equal to 1/2, or x is less than or equal to -4.5. Now it really doesn't matter what order you write these in, but if you want to be real particular, you could flip them around so that you go in the order of the number line, working left to right. Now, especially since I'm running out of time, I need you to pause the video and try number 5 on your own. Use the positive or negative method, like you have to do both, and solve for the 2 different solutions you get, and then write out the compound inequality, whether it's an and or an or. So I'm trusting you. Pause the video and try this, because then I will come right back and show my solution. Alright, so here I've shown you my solution method for this problem. The positive, using just what was in the absolute value. I subtract 9 from both sides, then divide, and I get f is less than or equal to 2. It gets tricky over here. I take the opposite of what was in the absolute value sign. So -2f minus 9, so then I have to add 9 to both sides, then I divide by a -2. Because I'm dividing by a negative, you probably know what I'm going to say. You have to flip your inequality symbol. So now I come over here and I go to graph it. So if I'm graphing and I look at my left inequality, f is less than or equal to 2. So I know that I'm going to shade this because the or equal, then I'm going less than. I'm headed towards my other point. So let's check. F is greater than or equal to -11. So the or equal has me shade it. And sorry, that should not have gone off to the left. I got a little ambitious on my shading. Let's see if, nope. And then when we do this correctly and we shade to the right, alright, so here we go. We have this finally shaded correctly now, and we can now write a combined inequality that's supposed to be -11. So we can say -11 is less than or equal to my value f, which is less than or equal to 2. So that is all I have for 1.9 on solving and graphing these compound inequalities involving absolute values. So go ahead, try the practice. Please make sure you complete the homework until you're confident, and let me know if you have any issues. Thank you and have a wonderful day.